Welcome to the Area Podcast from the Ames Regional Economic Alliance. I'm your host, Eric Smith. On today's episode, we are joined by David Spalding, Vice President of Economic Development and Industry Relations at Iowa State University. We talk about how the university drives innovation, connects with industry, supports entrepreneurs, and fosters economic growth across Iowa. This episode is presented by Flynn Wright, Iowa's premier full-service advertising agency, serving clients from coast to coast for over 40 years. Experts in crafting stories that sell, Flynn Wright prides itself on helping brands drive performance and stay one step ahead. David Spalding, thank you for being on this episode of the Area Podcast. How are you?
I'm doing great, thanks, Eric. Thank you for the invitation.
Yeah, absolutely. So, Vice President of Economic Development and Industry Relations at Iowa State University, but previously, and just stepped away, you were the Dean of the Ivy College of Business at Iowa State University. How did you make the decision to step away from that role?
Yeah, it was wonderful being the dean of the Ivy College of Business, and I spent 12 years in the position, and a lot of great things were accomplished that I was really pleased with. But I felt it was time to step back a bit at this stage for me, and can't really step back from the dean role. The dean role is a very full-time role, and so. I stepped back, and President Winterstein asked me if I would stay on a part-time appointment as the Vice President for Economic Development, and I'm excited about that work. I've been doing that for the last 7 years. I'm also a professor of finance, though, in the Ivy College of Business, and I'm running a new initiative there we have called the Investment Banking Initiative, which is an effort to position more of our students for careers in high finance. So I'm keeping my hand in business, too.
Well, we're going to you're a natural candidate for that role. So retirement is maybe the opposite of what you're doing. I just saw the Business Record, Des Moines Business Record did a profile on you, asked you some questions, and one of the first ones, your response was, well, I'm failing in retirement again.
Exactly, yes.
I mean, this feels like a full plate, though.
It's proving to be so here at the beginning, but... I'm glad to be able to stay busy.
Okay, all right. Well, very good. Well, let's back up a little bit. I mean, I kind of alluded to it that you are a natural candidate for this new program. So prior to coming to Iowa State, and actually prior to being in higher education, you spent a good amount of your career in Wall Street. Tell me more about that.
Yeah, so I actually grew up in Kentucky and went to Dartmouth College, which is up in New Hampshire. And when I went to Dartmouth, my plan was to become a lawyer. I wanted to be the Perry Mason of Louisville, Kentucky, do litigation, be in the courtroom all the time. But I was fortunate enough early on in my time at Dartmouth to get an internship at a bank. And I found that I really enjoyed that work. It was... fit in well with my math skills, which definitely are not the higher math skills of an engineer, but fit in with my math skills and comfort level. Also, a lot of engagement with people, a lot of analysis. And so by the time I became a senior in college, I really decided that law school wasn't the right play for me. I really wanted to get out into the workforce. I didn't want another 3 years of studying, 3 years of higher education. So instead, I left, graduated from college, and went to work for Chase Manhattan Bank in New York City.
So what was it? What was the draw to like Wall Street? Because you were there, I mean, and working in finance for a good part of your career, and we'll get to how you transitioned out of that. But I feel like in Central Iowa here, at least for me, there's kind of like this mystique of working on Wall Street. Is all of that true? Is that real?
Well, there's certainly some aspects of it that's real. Now, this was not the Wolf of Wall Street.
Right,
Wall Street. That was a boiler shop located in Long Island. So I was doing investment banking, much more akin to the kinds of things that were going on in Billions, probably, although they were more on the sales and trading side. So... but when I originally went to work for Chase Manhattan Bank, this was at a time when the commercial banks couldn't engage in investment banking activities. So I was a senior lender. I started out in the middle market group at Chase. My territory was the Empire State Building, working with garment companies that were headquartered in the Empire State Building and trying to work my way past receptionists to talk to the owner or talk to the chief financial officer about doing banking business with Chase. Now, I ultimately evolved into a deal role. So at my next place I went, so I moved around a bit as people do in New York City. So I left Chase after 6 years, went to First National Bank of Chicago in their New York office. And there I was involved in the early stages of financing what are called leveraged buyouts, which is where an equity investor borrows a lot of money to buy a company and essentially uses the cash flow of the company to pay down the debt. And so I was really on the front line, early days of this happening, led some of the senior financings for some of the early Kohlberg, Kravis, and Roberts deals. Found that I really enjoyed the deal work, and so I left for Chicago and went to General Electric Capital Corporation in a group that just did leveraged buyout financing. I was there for about a year and a half, and then I got hired by Lehman Brothers, then one of the largest investment banks in the world, and they were raising one of the first billion-dollar buyout funds. And I had expertise because of my involved in financing those sorts of deals. So they brought me in essentially on the equity investment side to help be part of the team that invested this billion-dollar fund. It's fascinating work. You're looking at a wide variety of companies. You've got to decide whether you want to buy it or not. You've got to decide how much you're willing to pay for it. You've got to decide how you're going to structure the debt that you take on, the amount of equity you're going to put in. And then once you buy the company, you own it. You bought it, it's yours. And so you really got to start working with management around incentive plans, annual financial plans, and really found that to be just, again, fascinating work.
So it feels like there was some high-intensity type work going on here. I mean, like, this is the financial hub of the world in many ways, or certainly one of them. Was this learn as you go type situation? I mean, obviously, you have the pedigree to be able to do this, but at some point, buying, billion-dollar deals here, you just kind of jump in and kind of learn as you go with other people.
Well, it's true. So I was actually a history major in college, but Chase Manhattan Bank gave me a firm grounding in finance. They had a great training program in those days, 6-month program you went through that really gave you everything you needed to know around accounting and finance. Yeah. But then it's, toss you into the pool and see if you can swim. So, and certainly, again, we were breaking new ground. This was the very early days of this new financial technology. And so we were a bit writing the script as we went along in terms of how these things ought to play out.
So after 29 years in banking and in Wall Street, you decide to step away, and you had an opportunity to move into higher ed. Talk me through what that process was like.
Yeah, so, with 29 years on Wall Street, I really felt that I had accomplished what I wanted to accomplish. When I started at Chase Manhattan Bank and I walked around the halls, I couldn't understand why I didn't see many people with gray hair. By the time my grays were coming in, I realized why you don't see as many people walking around with gray hair. It's a bit of a young person's game. And so my partners and I had run this one investment fund at Lehman. We went out and formed our own firm, so I had a chance to scratch the entrepreneurial itch and ran 2 funds on our own. And at that point, I really felt I had accomplished what I wanted to accomplish. And so I decided to retire from the firm. And I wanted to try to get into the nonprofit sector. I wanted to get into really doing something that involved giving back. I'd been volunteering and involved with some organizations, the Make-A-Wish Foundation of Metro New York, with Dartmouth College, my alma mater. And so the president of Dartmouth reached out to me and said, why don't you come on up and work for me? And I had a discussion with a person who was a Dartmouth alum who taught nonprofit management at Harvard Business School. And what he said to me is, if you're going to go into the nonprofit sector, make sure it's something you have a passion for, because the financial remuneration isn't going to be what you've been accustomed to on the street. But more importantly, you're going to work a lot harder than you think you're going to work. So pick something you've got a passion for. And I had a passion for higher education in general, a passion for Dartmouth in particular. My father and my mother were both first-generation college. It made a huge difference in their lives, getting that college degree. I'd seen friends at Dartmouth, friends on the street who were also first-generation college. And so I was really inspired by that. I'd had a great experience at Dartmouth. I knew the president well. I'd been a volunteer, so stayed in touch with him over the years. He actually had been a history professor of mine, Jim Wright, really great man. And so I said, sure. So packed the family up, moved up to New Hampshire, and spent 8 years at Dartmouth running most of the non-academic areas at one time or another either reported to me or I worked very closely with reporting to the president. So everything from alumni relations I ran for a period of time. Then I moved in as the president's chief of staff and for a while oversaw communications, oversaw the investment office, oversaw athletics. Now, Ivy League athletics are not Big 12 athletics, but it's still great student experience. And so really enjoyed the time at Dartmouth. But I wanted to get on to the academic side. You know, when you think about that magic that happens, that transformation, so much of it happens in the classroom. So I got contacted by a search firm that had the search for the business dean position in what was then the College of Business at Iowa State University. And my wife's from the Quad Cities, so 3 hours east of here.
Okay.
And really, we'd said as we began to think about this transition from Dartmouth, we wanted to get closer to family. My family in Kentucky or her family in Western Illinois. So it was attractive from that standpoint. I really loved the land-grant mission. And again, Dartmouth's a wonderful place. Love the students there. The land-grant mission is really a different mission. First of all, practical and accessible education. Secondly, research, but really research that's more applied research in many ways. And then thirdly, being involved in helping the people of your state, helping the people of the state of Iowa. And so I was really drawn by that mission. Dartmouth's up in New Hampshire. It's an absolutely beautiful place. And one of the things I read as I was doing my research in Iowa State was it was considered to be one of the most beautiful college campuses in the country. And I said, now, wait a minute. Wait a minute. I have high standards for what a beautiful college campus is. President Eisenhower visited Dartmouth in the late 1950s when he was president and said, this is what a college should look like. So high standards. But I came to Iowa State and really fell in love with the campus as well, as so many prospective students do when they come to visit campus. In my office in the Jardine Business Building, the dean's office looks right out on the Campanile. What better view to have through all 4 seasons of the year. So family, a great mission, a great location, and really just enjoyed the people when I came to interview here.
When you were reached out to for the Iowa State role, did it come as a shock a little bit?
Yeah, so interestingly enough, the search firm that had the search was a firm that had done a couple of searches for us at Iowa State. For us at Dartmouth. My mistake. For us at Dartmouth. And so I knew them, and the fellow who had founded the firm had talked to me at one point about whether I'd thought about being a college president or a business dean. I said, well, wait a minute, I don't have a PhD. I have an MBA, got an MBA from New York University at night, but I don't have a PhD. And he said, well, they're trying to find business people for these roles, and you've got a little bit of a unique background with the time you've spent on Wall Street, the time you've spent working here at Dartmouth. And so that really, I was surprised with what the school was, but I wasn't surprised that he was reaching out to me about an opportunity like that.
As you look back, he knew you just as much as you knew the firm. They knew you as well. So when you look back, not even that far, I mean, could you have done the higher education work at Dartmouth and then at Iowa State without your Wall Street experience, or maybe how valuable was that practical experience? How did that contribute to your role at dean here at Iowa State?
Yeah, so I think it was helpful. I think that if you think about Wall Street is very much a knowledge-based industry. We used to say that our best asset takes the elevator down to go home every day because it's really about the people and their brains. It's not about big manufacturing facilities or laboratories. It's really about people and their brain power. And universities have a lot in common with that as well, right? And so it's very much, again, about the faculty, about those, about their individual skills and knowledge and bringing that individual skill and knowledge to bear. So one aspect is that actually higher education has some similarities to the kind of management situations that you're facing when you're managing people on Wall Street. And I think then just, the practical business experience, and they were definitely looking for somebody like that here at Iowa State. They weren't set on just hiring somebody with industry experience, but they wanted to have somebody with industry experience in the mix, along with traditional academics. Not sure I would have gotten really the opportunity had I not had that business experience.
So I've found that, as I look back at my own career and other people's career, just kind of analyzing, I find that, there are certainly formative professional years for a person, and it kind of hardwires them to think certain ways. Maybe they make observations during those years, they form habits during those years. For you, that was in finance. And so how did that pay off for you, as you continued to progress?
Yeah, so the kind of investing we were doing was medium-term investing. So I wasn't a trader who was buy a share of stock now and 10 minutes later sell that share of stock for a few pennies more, and do enough of that you can earn money on volume. We were really making longer-term investments, and so we had to think in longer terms in how we looked at the companies we were investing in. We had to think in a longer-term basis once we bought those companies. That's not dissimilar from what you have to do when you're running a college of business.
Yeah.
You really have to think over the longer term. This is very much not about the earning of pennies a day. This is very much about the decisions you're making that are going to pay off for your college over the long haul. I would say Wall Street also gave me a pretty strong work ethic. You put in a lot of long hours there, and I've really probably carried that over to my time at Iowa State as well, which is part of what allowed me to do 2 jobs for 7 of my years here, both the Dean of the College of Business and the Vice President for Economic Development.
Well, these are lifestyle things, you go to the grocery store and you're the Dean of the Ivy College of Business. You go anywhere, you are thinking economic development for the region. Well, let's unpack a little bit of your 12 years in the College of Business. I'm going to breeze over some of this, but I do want you to comment on it. Enrollment in the college grew by over 25%. You were essential in some of the private fundraising. You launched several new programs during your time there. How did, thinking long term, how did some of these things, lay out this way?
Yeah, so the enrollment, our success, I would tie that to, again, a longer-term strategy. So at the time I came to Iowa State 12 years ago, there was a lot being written at that point about the upcoming enrollment cliff. The United States has seen a decline in the number of births starting in 2008. This demographic wave is going to hit higher education over this next year. It's actually the case that in the spring of 2025, the most students ever in the United States graduated from high school, 3.9 million. By 2041, there will only be 3.3 million high school graduates, down 15%. And so we've seen that this enrollment cliff was going to come. And so really from the time I got to Iowa State, had a real focus on how do we maximize our enrollment numbers so we best position ourselves to deal with that upcoming demographic issue. And that really is what fed into several strategies. So the first one was to widen the range of programs that we offered to our students. Students were demonstrating that they come to college with a clearer view of what it is they want to do. Now, they may change that a couple of times while they're with us, but they're not looking for really just that plain vanilla management major. They're looking to major in finance or actuarial science or entrepreneurship. They've got a more specific idea where they want to be, and companies, frankly, want to hire students with that skill set.
Yeah.
Again, the traditional management major, which really is how colleges of business got started, companies, I'm not sure, really have a clear view on what to do with those students. The placement rate isn't quite as strong. The average starting salary isn't quite as strong. So I felt that by having a wider range of programs, we would draw a broader range of students. And so we went from 8 majors at the time I came to 13 majors by the time I left. Plus, we added a program called a Bachelor of Business Administration, which is a fully online degree completer program. So if you've finished 45 credits, you can sign on to this program and finish your degree while you're still working, typically. Those programs together in fall of 2024, as you said, we hit a record 5,197 students. 15% of our undergraduate students were in majors that didn't exist when I came on board as dean. But we also saw strong growth in those traditional majors. So those traditional majors grew over 20%, which means we weren't cannibalizing those majors. We were really bringing in a different kind of student into these new majors.
What do you attribute to this thinking of high school students coming in with a much more clear vision of the track they want to take or what that they want to pursue? And you had mentioned, they might shift, while they're going to school, but like they have this vision coming in.
Yeah, they've got a lot more information today than we had when we were thinking about college, right? So,
Yes.
so they've got much better idea of the kinds of things that are out there. I think they're generally getting good advice from guidance counselors in terms of what they ought to look at. And so even an area like actuarial science. So we launched an actuarial science major in 2019. And part of the reason we did that was a couple of years before that when we began planning it. For students taking the PSAT test to take a survey on what they're planning on majoring in, actuarial science was the fastest growing major of interest among those students in the area of business. And who the heck knows what an actuary is when you're in 9th or 10th grade, right?
Correct, yes.
And yet here it was, a fast growing with really good numbers behind it. A lot of data science really feeding into the actuarial science major. And so we launched that program. And it's a very good program for us. It's never going to be a huge program, but much larger programs are our business analytics major, our entrepreneurship major. We've got a fast-growing human resources major, a fast-growing healthcare management major, and then some interesting programs that I'll come back to in a minute. But really, those new undergraduate majors were important for us. And then from a master's degree standpoint, we doubled the number of master's degrees that we have. Again, students looking at that traditional MBA, fewer of them interested in the MBA. Applications for MBA programs have been declining since 2008. Students want a more particular set of skills. And so we launched a Master of Finance degree, a Master of Healthcare Analytics and Operations, a Master of Business Analytics program. And by doubling the number of majors, we more than doubled the number of students we have in our master's programs at Iowa State.
Well, it's a heavy lift to launch a new program. So, from your seat when you were there and helping make these decisions, what boxes needed to be checked for you and the team to finally say, yes, let's move forward? Because once you start moving forward, there are a lot of gears that got to start turning all together for this to not only take off, but then be successful as well.
Yeah, from genesis of the idea for a new major to approval by the regents is almost 2 years.
Oh, wow.
And so really you have to start with faculty who are excited about that program. Yeah. And so in some cases we set up task forces of faculty who worked around some of these issues. In other cases, department chairs really worked on them. We'd identify based on data that we had, areas that we thought would be interesting, and then really let the faculty go to work on whether that program was something they wanted to pursue. And I want to commend our faculty. The faculty in the Ivy College of Business were really great about getting behind this idea of expanding the number of programs so that we could grow the college. We've got a student consulting program at Ivy, our SciBiz Lab, and by the way, these student consultants are available for hire. They do projects for companies all the time. And each time we have one of these new majors to launch, we bring them in to take a look at what the demand would be for the program, what employers would think of a program like that, survey current students as to their interest in a program like that, take a look at what the market is like in terms of who the competitors are going to be. So a lot of work goes into it.
What type of feedback are they providing that you're finding to be useful and beneficial?
Yeah, so it definitely, it's got to score well among our existing students. Not necessarily that they're going to be the ones taking the major, but you've got to understand that 18 to 22, 23-year-old demographic is going to be interested in a program in this area. We want to make sure we understand how the competition lays out. Is this something where we feel like we can make a difference? And I would say the actuarial science would be an example of that. And so originally when we had the idea and did a little bit of work on it, the answer was, well, University of Iowa has a program, Drake has a program, University of Northern Iowa has a program. So I sort of put this on the back burner for a while. But then I heard from industry, we've got a real need for actuaries. And in fact, we want actuaries who have a broader business perspective, who can apply that actuarial knowledge to broader business problems. University of Iowa's program is great, but it's located in their Department of Actuarial Science and Statistics. UNI's program is good, but it's located in their Department of Mathematics. We're the only one of the region's institutions with it located in a business college, which means our actuarial students take the broad range of business courses, our core, they take electives in business as well as taking their actuarial science courses. This puts them in high demand among employers.
One of the things, and you had referenced it about a program about entrepreneurship, Iowa State University recently named the #1 entrepreneurial university of the year, and you and I had this conversation. This is ingrained in the culture across Iowa State University, and I'll echo one other thing that you had mentioned, that students, they're coming in with more information, probably have this greater sense of, I can do some of these things myself. And so all of these variables of the times, the students, but then ultimately building this culture at Iowa State has contributed to this entrepreneurial spirit. Talk about sitting in the College of Business as all of this is unfolding, sort of in real time. Because the thing that I found to be really interesting is that it ended up being part of Iowa State's brand across the university.
Yeah, so we've had a long tradition in this area. I mean, if you think about it, every farmer's an entrepreneur.
Yeah.
So it really is deeply ingrained in Iowa State, this idea of working with small businesses and entrepreneurs starting an enterprise. 27 years ago, John Papajohn gave a gift. He was an entrepreneur in Des Moines. It was during one of the farm crises. He really wanted to get businesses going in the state again. So made a gift to Iowa State, University of Iowa, University of Northern Iowa, Drake, and North Iowa Area Community College. He was from Mason City, for them to set up entrepreneurship centers. And it's been a really good program at Iowa State for a long time. They established a cross-discipline minor that, again, had been in place for a number of years by the time I came in. But what I felt was that we had an opportunity to take this to the next level. So put together a task force of faculty, and Judy Isles, who runs our Papajohn Center, who's just outstanding, and they came out with a series of recommendations to establish an undergraduate major, to establish ultimately a master's program, which we did. And we were the first with a master's program in the state of Iowa. We were the first Regents institution with an undergraduate major. And then we were the 8th university in the country to have a PhD concentration in entrepreneurship. So really the whole gamut of academic opportunities. But we also invested more money in the outside of the classroom efforts. And then really what helped put us on a rocket ship was President Winterstein's commitment to entrepreneurship and innovation. And so she's really innovated. Iowa State really has become a brand. Entrepreneurship emphasized all across campus. She's actively engaged in what we do in the entrepreneurship area. And so, as you pointed out, in 2021, the organization of academics who operate in the entrepreneurship field named us the #1 entrepreneurship program in the country, and that would be Iowa State University's entrepreneurship program #1 in the country. The following year, the Global Consortium of Entrepreneurship Centers, which is 240 entrepreneurship centers around the world, named us here in Ames, Iowa, the #1 entrepreneurship center in the world. Again, 240 centers around the world, we were named #1. No university has won those awards in back-to-back years, and it's a real tribute to the great staff that we have, Judy Isles and her team. It's a great credit to the faculty that we have in that area, and how everybody really came together across campus. I mean, at many colleges and universities who have entrepreneurship program, it's led by a Pied Piper who's really great at bringing a small amount of students into the program. They're off in one corner of campus. That's not the case at Iowa State. Yeah. We've got the president leading the way. We've got all 7 of the deans engaged in programs in their colleges in this area, and that just makes a huge difference.
This episode of the Area Podcast is sponsored by...
You have a story to tell. That story has a job to do, to be seen, to be heard, to sell, to find inspiration and insight, to use persuasion to change behavior, to turn strategy into tactics, tactics into action, to sell. Nobody does that better than Flynn Wright.
It all started with the mulch colorant that made our name. And now, Color Biotics manufactures millions of pounds of product month after month, bringing brilliance and resilience all around the world. And as we look ahead, all we see is growth. A growing customer base and growing sales mean a growing team. From the lab to the field, backyards to ball fields, and beyond. We need vivid imagination, intense passion, and brilliant ideas. If that sounds like you, we have one question. Are you ready to get to work? Colorbiotics.com/careers.
Just south of Iowa State University, in the heart of the Midwest, sits the Iowa State University Research Park. 550 acres of opportunity and innovation. With over 1 million square feet of developed space, it's home to more than 145 tenant companies, from startups to global leaders. Discover innovation hubs, collaborative spaces, and a community that's shaping the future. Whether you're scaling up or starting fresh, ISU Research Park has room to grow. Visit isupark.org to learn more.
So continuing on the entrepreneurial spirit here at the university, the first thing that you need to be an entrepreneur is you need this drive and desire that you have this idea and you want to start a business or you want to take off. And so when they come into Iowa State with this huge infrastructure supporting them, what are you looking to amplify within those students and educate so that they can really be supported and take off with what they want to do?
Yeah, so we want to provide them a framework to pursue this. We want to help them understand that, Mark Zuckerberg didn't just fall out of bed one morning and launch Facebook and be worth billions of dollars. It takes an incredible amount of hard work. You have to be your own boss, and there are few tougher employees than yourself when you're trying to, set all the program for yourself, set the goals each week, and manage yourself through achieving those goals. So we want to provide them a framework for that. Our introductory entrepreneurship course, which all the students in our major and minor are required to take, and actually all students in the College of Business are required to take, involves developing a business plan for a business. So you understand it's not just about that idea, it's about establishing a plan for how you're going to accomplish the objective of establishing a company around that idea. Then there are a series of programs, and again, the students in the major, they have to take our core courses. I've had more than one entrepreneur say to me, I wish I'd taken some accounting courses. Well, our students in the major take the accounting courses as part of the Ivy College of Business program, so they at least have an understanding of that aspect of the business. We then provide them a safe space to fail. So one of the great programs that we launched 10 years ago, actually, is our Size Starters program. And this is a program where students around the university compete through a long-form pitch competition to have a chance to intern in their own business for the summer. So we bring in about 14 students or 14 teams. There may be 2 students on a team. They get paid. While they're doing this work. We give them space to work out of. We give them mentors to work with. And most importantly, we have accountability sessions. So each week they have to stand up and say, here's what I said I was going to do this week. Here's what I actually accomplished. And here's what I'm going to do next week. Most inspiring one of those sessions I sat in was a student who stood up and said, this week I said I was going to make the final efforts around customer discovery, and I realized that my idea isn't going to work as I conceived it. So I'm actually going to make a pivot. I'm going to spend this next week thinking about how I'm going to pivot my idea. Well, what a great opportunity for that student to fail in a safe space with support there, with mentors to help them through that, and understand, though, that this failure is very much a part of the entrepreneurial journey. I'd mentioned, sorry.
No, go ahead. Yeah.
I'd mentioned our Size Starters program, again, nationally renowned. This year, that same organization of academics in the entrepreneurship space in higher education gave our Size Starters Accelerator their #1 student program award of the year.
What do you think? What are some of the most shocking things that students have to experience through this process. I mean, understanding that failure is inevitable and it's going to be part of it, that's incredibly valuable. But like, what are some additional aspects of this process that, you see over and over again?
Well, some of it is also trying to help them differentiate between a good idea that may be something they can do as a hobby for the rest of their life from something that actually can be a business that's going to generate revenue, it's going to provide them an opportunity to actually have a living from that. And that's something that we try to work through with them as well.
Do many of the students, they probably quickly at least find out that, they have this interest area and they want to pursue this, but they realize, to your point, to make that transition from a hobby to business, this needs to be on autopilot. The thing that you love, you need to be able to do very efficiently because the majority of your time is going to be spent on these other things.
No, it's very true. And, what happens is a lot of our students come to the end of this journey, and ultimately the idea they've been working on doesn't work for them. But they've got the entrepreneurship bug. And I think if you look at our SciStarters, the people who participated in that program over the last 10 years, 75% of them are still working in an entrepreneurial venture. It may be their own, but it also may be that they become employee number 3 or number 8 or number 20 for a small venture that's starting out because they got the bug, just needed to have the right idea to work around.
How motivating is it for you and the other faculty in the College of Business to be around this youthful energy? I mean, like there's all these ideas, and no one's going to tell them no. They just don't hear it, and like there's something really powerful about that. If you're around it all the time, like it has to be kind of motivating for yourself as well.
Well, there's no question. It reminds us of why we do this work, and so June 30 was my last day as dean.
Yeah.
And people started asking me in January, you're counting down the days. And I said, well, I'm not counting the days to June 30. I'm counting the days to May 16th, because May 16th is when graduation happens.
Yeah.
And that following week, there won't be any students in the building.
Yeah.
Post-COVID, all of our summer classes are now offered online. We really can't get any students to stay here in Ames anymore to do in-person classes. So the key was May 16th, last day students were really going to be in the building. And to your point, the energy is gone.
Yeah.
Now we have orientation during June, and that brings the fresh new students in. It's just not quite the same.
Yeah, I believe that. It is interesting, being a resident in a college town. The summers always seem to get shorter and shorter, though. It's like suddenly the students are gone, but then they're back. And I always tell people, I love it when they come back. It just brings this energy back to the community that, it doesn't, to me, it doesn't go away, but it certainly goes dormant, during this time. But it always comes back in the fall. One of the things that you had talked about is this collaboration across the university. This isn't just a business initiative, but it hits all of the other colleges. How does that continue to keep going across the university? Because it's not something that the president can just say, we're doing this, and then it's implemented. It's got to be reinforced across what is a very large institution.
Yeah, no question. And so it does take a dedicated core of faculty who are really committed to this work. And we've got those faculty spread across all 7 of the colleges, which is great. And then we're trying to work more of the intersections. And so, one of the things we talked about for several years is how do you take that engineering student who actually has developed a great idea that's a commercializable product and pair them up with the business students who may not have that ability to develop a brand new product or a new invention, but bring the business skills to it. So this year, 2 of our faculty members, an engineering faculty member by the name of Nigel Rule, an entrepreneurship professor in the Ivy College of Business, Mike Howard, launched what we call the Deep Technology Venture Creation class. And what that class did is Nigel Rule recruited 5 PhD students in engineering programs who had discoveries that they were working on. Mike Howard recruited 10 MBA or Master of Entrepreneurship students from Ivy, and we paired 2 of those business students with each one of the scientists, and it's been magical. It's been a great way for the scientists to learn more about how a business gets formed around a venture like that. It's been great for the business students to really see how they can take a product that really is commercializable, that is not something that is a hobby business, but in fact is something that's solving a real-world business problem and can really become and grow into a business. So giving the students the chance, our students, the business students, the chance to see that has really been wonderful. And we've got 2 of those teams are still working together over the summer. We provided some funding for them to be able to do that. They may continue that work into the fall. We'll bring a next cohort in next year. So this is an example of faculty members coming together to really help keep the momentum going with this program.
Let's pivot to economic development. How do you stay connected with industry partners? And then how does that impact your work at the university?
Yeah, so the Office of Economic Development and Industry Relations was formed about 11 years ago, brought together 5 units that essentially spend all their time dealing with companies. It includes our Center for Industrial Research and Service, which is basically our engineering extension operation. They work with small to mid-sized manufacturers in all 99 counties across Iowa. The Small Business Development Centers. This is a group that really works with more Main Street businesses, again, in all 99 counties across the state. We have the state office located here in Ames. There's an Ames Center and a Des Moines Center, which are under the Iowa State University umbrella, and then 11 others at community colleges and 1 at University of Iowa, 1 at UNI. We've got the Papa John Center for Entrepreneurship, which I've talked about. We've got the Research Park, and we have our Office of Innovation Commercialization, which is our tech transfer area.
So one of the interesting things, just from our organization and my seat is when you think about economic development, there's certainly that local impact, but then I always see them as concentric circles. And the interesting thing about this area of not only the state, but our nation is that, Iowa State is at the hub of a lot of these things. The innovation that takes place across our region certainly has a local impact, but the Iowa State brand and the name and as a result, Central Iowa is known in many different industries. And it's just interesting, all of these, concentric circles that, all just kind of focus on our region. Talk about that a little bit.
Yeah, well, some of this starts with outstanding faculty.
Yeah.
So our College of Agriculture and Life Sciences is a world-class research operation with some of the top experts in the world in their fields. Our College of Engineering, very much the same. Right. Other STEM programs across campus. So it starts with that outstanding group of faculty who draw the worldwide renown and worldwide attention to us here in Ames. It then takes finding ways to, their bread and butter is finding those federal grants to fund their work in their labs. And what we work with them on is trying to stretch them beyond that sort of work to get more engaged directly with businesses, with industry. And so one of the things that leads to is that Deere Corporation has one of their 5 global technology centers is right here in the Research Park in Ames. Yeah. And they've put that there because of the opportunity to partner with that world-class faculty we have, especially in our digital ag space, led by Professor Matt Darr.
From a logistics standpoint, we've talked about a lot of things already. I mean, we've talked about the university culture and infrastructure. We've talked about large industry. We've talked about, supporting small business, building up entrepreneurs. How do you keep track of it all? You dropped a lot of stats and information within the last 40 minutes. I mean, but what type of mechanism do you utilize to keep track of all of this?
Perpetual motion. So
tell me more.
Yeah, I have to say that there was an interview that Dan Houston, the chairman and then CEO of Principal Financial Group, gave a year ago at the Principal Classic that was somewhat freeing for me. So Dan is an Ivy College of Business alum. On my Dean's Advisory Council, was the chair of the Dean's Advisory Council as I stepped down. And Dan was asked about hobbies. And Dan said, well, I've got to be honest with you. I work all the time. Yeah. I'm really focused on what I'm doing for Principal, what I'm doing for our community, and that's my focus. And that was freeing to me because I basically work all the time as well. So I put a lot of time in on the weekends on top of the work I do during the week, and that's how I've managed to successfully hold down two important positions for the university.
Yeah.
Is by really working it. But to maintain that sort of pace over a long period of time, it's really done because I really enjoy this work. I'm very committed to this.
Yeah.
I'm having the opportunity to really work in an area that I love. And that's part of the reason for my latest failure at literally retiring when I stepped down. As opposed to stepping down from everything, I've kept the economic development role because I really love this kind of work. And as you say, the impact that it's having across our state. I mean, we've got, I mentioned the SBDC and the CIRRUS really working in all 99 counties, but the research park can look at businesses that are located in the research park, have operations in over 50 counties across our state. And the kinds of things that we're discovering and working with their operations here on campus are making life better in those operations they have out in those over 50 counties.
Yeah.
And so there's a good mission aspect to this too that really draws me in.
So your advice is just run hard and run all the time.
Well, but also run with others. You've got to
Okay.
bring others
Oh, good.
along with you. There is a proverb that if you want to go fast, run alone.
Yeah.
If you want to go far, run together.
Okay.
And that really is a matter of having others who buy into that vision. Not necessarily my vision, but really the vision of Iowa State University and the mission that we have and trying to get this all accomplished together.
Well, before we got started today, we were just chit-chatting a little bit, and I knew that you were going to take some time and travel to Ireland. So for those who don't know, Iowa State University football team has a unique opportunity to play their first football game of the upcoming season over in Ireland. And then you go on to tell me, I'll be working the majority of time that I'm there. But what's interesting about it is that it amplifies the point that we just made about Iowa State and Iowa, the state of Iowa, being integral across, not only the United States, but across the world. So tell me about your trip and the work that you're doing over there.
Yeah, so what's exciting about working with the team over in Ireland on this project is it includes the people who do economic development for the country as a whole, Enterprise Ireland. And so they really brought the idea to us early on of trying to take advantage of the incredibly strong agricultural programs we have here at Iowa State and at Kansas State. The game is called Farmageddon for a reason, and really looking at a way to mesh those skills with skills that exist in Ireland, where you also have a strong agricultural presence. So University College Dublin, Kansas State University, and Iowa State University are collaborating on a 2-day series of workshops and seminars around One Health, which really starts with animal health, production animal health in particular, but extends into human health as well, into digital agriculture. So we're going to have some great corporate executives with strong connections to Iowa State who will be over in Dublin for the game. K-State is also bringing some folks.
Yeah.
University College Dublin is bringing Irish businesses to the table, and we're really looking forward to a great interaction over there and hope that some of that results in some collaborations that, again, can benefit us here in Ames.
And that's the goal from both sides of the ocean, is to develop those relationships, but then relationships turn into partnerships that are mutually beneficial.
Absolutely, that's right.
So what I find to be interesting is, oftentimes, you see foes on the football field, but in this case, that can still exist on the football field, but this is very much a collaboration between Iowa State and K-State.
Yeah, let there be no doubt the Wildcats are going down. But before the Wildcats go down,
right,
we're going to spend a couple of days really collaborating. And K-State's a very similar university to ours, strong agricultural program, good engineering program, good College of Veterinary Medicine. And so we're really going to have collaborations across those spaces with faculty who all know each other already because they work in the same very similar spaces. And picking up colleagues from Ireland, working with these businesses, not in a competitive way, but in a collaborative way.
Have you had other experiences of university partnerships?
Yeah, so we do work to partner with other universities, including University of Iowa.
Yeah.
And so we have some good collaborations with University of Iowa around some human health areas. We've got some great work that's being done in nanovaccines. We've got the Nanovaccine Institute at Iowa State, and there are a lot of collaborations there with faculty over in the medical school at the University of Iowa.
Interesting.
So we can be friends too.
Yeah. Just not on the football field.
Yeah, right. Or basketball, or soccer pitch, or
yes.
It goes on.
Any athletics, well, I get it. Well, that's really cool. So you're certainly not taking really much of any time off, but so what type of professional wins have you had, say, in the last week or 2 weeks?
Yeah, so it's great to be out at the research park full time, really focused on the good work that's going on there. I had a chance to have lunch with the SciStarters students, and you talk about being energized. What an energizing group of young people that was. Great exchange of ideas, a lot of interest in my career background, but in my part, a lot of interest in how they developed the ideas that they brought to the table here. We've got some good work we're doing out at the park that will lead to continued expansion in the research park. The research park is a great asset to the community here. And just over the last couple of years, we've grown our square footage by 15% during a time where nationally commercial real estate is under pressure. We've grown 15% to around 1 million square feet out at the research park in 550 acres. We're 98% occupied. Built 2 new buildings that were fully occupied the day that we opened the doors. And so there just continues to be this great draw for businesses to come to the research park where they can access the talent that graduates out of our university every year and access the great faculty who do research in these areas who are really very much top of their fields.
It's interesting, as much as the world has gone to digital, and, even during COVID, it was, connecting remotely. Every time we talk about our region and market it, we always lead with Iowa State University and the research park. And what's interesting is the number of companies who want to be here just simply due to being adjacent to it all. Like they want those connections, they want those partnerships, and they find real value in the region. And I just find that to be very interesting in this world where, you can connect with anyone over a computer, and yet there is still that desire and need to be close, because that's how collaborations can really take off.
Well, that's right. And so if you take a look at one of the successful models at our research park, and Deere would be an example of this, they have a program where there are 10 different units at Deere located around Iowa and Western Illinois who hire summer interns in for the summer. The good ones, they then offer them the chance to continue to work for Deere during the fall and spring semester. And those students come back to campus. They have desk space out at the Deere facility out in the research park. They continue to report back to the person, let's say at the Waterloo Works, that they worked for over the summer. The advantages for Deere with that are, number one, those students actually will complete the projects they were working on over the summer, and sometimes summer interns finish them and sometimes they don't.
Right.
But generally with our interns, they then come back to campus, and 2 weeks later is the College of Business Career Fair, 3 weeks later is the Engineering Career Fair, and they lose a lot of these students. Well, by offering them jobs to work for them in a physical place to work, not just working in your dorm room, they instill certain professionalism in those students. They really get value out of the work that they're doing. From our student standpoint, our students in the Ivy College of Business, about 60% of them have a job during the fall and spring semester. Now, there's nothing like having a job at Hickory Park, but if your alternative is to have a job continuing to work for Deere and advancing your professional career, students are going to take that opportunity. And so from Deere's standpoint, for those students who participate in that program, who they make an offer to, typically over 90% of them accept that offer. So it's a great deal for Deere, but it's very much based on that place, very much based on having a place here for them to work. There's a wait list now of Deere organizations that want to participate in the program, and that may lead to some expansion by Deere out at the park, so they can make this program even stronger.
You had mentioned talking with the SciStarters again. You've seen a lot of these pitches, and, I'm sure there's, some repetition of things that you've seen. Have you had a couple even recently where you're like, a good idea? Why hasn't someone else thought of that yet? I mean, I'm sure these things are popping up.
Yeah, one of the challenges that we're all facing right now is the issue with forever chemicals. And yes, we need to get those out. because of the issues that they cause, but they are very fundamental to certain materials. And so we actually have a student who's done some really great work in the lab around substitutes for forever chemicals that have very much the same properties, but don't have that forever aspect associated with it. It's kind of like, wow, that's really cool.
Yeah.
That really is something that could really make a difference in the world and be a product that would really launch out of here very successfully.
Well, David, this has been absolutely wonderful. I'm sure we could go on, but I won't keep you. David Spalding, Vice President of Economic Development and Industry Relations at Iowa State University, and now a faculty. Are you considered faculty at the Ivy College of Business?
I am now. I've had a faculty appointment for 12 years.
Okay,
but now I'm a former dean, but a current professor of finance.
Fair enough. Fair enough. Well, thank you for being on this episode of the Area Podcast. For all of you listening and you like this, and hey, if you're an alum of the Ivy College of Business, we would certainly love it if you shared this episode. This is the Area Podcast from the Ames Regional Economic Alliance, Personal Stories, Professional Journeys.